Roundtable continues with Steve, Calvin, Trey, and Scott.
Welcome back at 5:19. We're delighted to welcome you on board. Thanks for being here. John Creuzot, as you heard at the top of the show, Steve's special guest, is in-house with his son, who we'll meet momentarily. John was a prosecutor with the Dallas DA office and then became a criminal district judge, easy for you to say, for many years. And he's now a criminal defense attorney, like our good friend Calvin. And he's running for DA in the next election against Faith Johnson, I'm told. And I'm going to turn it over to Steve because, Steve, this is your special guest here today. So bring us up to date. Anything I didn't say about John that you would like to add?
You know what? Let's let John say a couple of words about what he's doing and what his plans are, how you decided to run for DA.
Okay. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is John Creuzot, and as was mentioned, for 22 years, or just short of 22 years, I was a state district judge here in Dallas, and I've been in private practice now since 2013. I actually retired from being a state district judge, and just leadership and which direction our criminal justice system is going has been a big part of my consideration. And I've spent a lot of time the last several months talking to members of our community, including lawyers and business people and average people, and just trying to discern what is it that we need to do, and do I have the skills and the leadership to do that for this community. And so I've decided officially and formally to run for district attorney on the Democratic ticket, and I'm looking forward to, and I'm sure I'll have a primary opponent. I seriously doubt that I could get through it without, and that's within reason that I would have one. And so I'm looking forward to whoever that person is and having a spirited debate as to who can lead this community in the future in that office.
Yeah, I don't think politics are that, involved in district attorney position. So I'm not, I typically support the Republican candidate, but not necessarily for DA. But in this case, I'm definitely behind John Creuzot because I've known you for I don't know how many years. And every time I would walk in as a criminal defense lawyer, every time I'd walk into your court, I knew down to my soul that my client would get a fair trial. And I don't use the F word loosely down there in these courthouses, the fair word, because there is no fairness typically when you get in a courtroom. But in John Creuzot's court, there's no question that you would get your client. I don't care what he did. I don't care where he's from. Justice in that court was blind, and you would get a fair trial in John Creuzot's court. Everybody knew it. And we loved, Criminal District Court number 4, CDC 4, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And so tell us, you created, I think, a diversion court or something. I can't remember what it was now. Or
yes.
Tell the audience about that. What was that?
So
what is that?
We've known for quite some time that building prisons is the wrong way to go. And there were some states that were looking at doing other things. And out of Miami, in fact, it was Janet Reno, who was the district attorney at the time. She and a judge decided to treat drug cases differently, and that is focus more on treatment than incarceration. Because incarceration doesn't get any return other than back out on the streets doing the same thing. And that's a poor return for your investment. And so a movement began in the late 80s and early 90s to take those folks, low level mostly, and try to rehabilitate them. Now, that's not ignoring the case. That's actually doing an assessment and treating those who have a high likelihood of a substance abuse dependency, which means that they're more likely to come back in the system.
These are mostly defendants with possession cases.
Possession, yes. And it can be expanded to other cases. It doesn't have to be possession, but when we first started it, yes, it was possession cases only. And so what we did was we really did a study of people coming into the system. We did that the mid-'90s, and we started the program in 1998. And to make a long story short, after about 3 years of operation, we had the SMU Psychology Department and the SMU Economics Department come in and do two different studies. One did a recidivism study and one did a cost-benefit analysis. And what we found was we had a 68% reduction in recidivism from a comparison group, And then for every dollar spent, we had $9.34 in avoided criminal justice costs. So obviously that's significant, and nothing like that had ever happened in the criminal justice system in this state. And so I actually went to Austin and sought out those who I was told were leading legislators. And Pete Gallego at the time was I was told was a mover and shaker and could get things done on both sides of the aisle. And I sought him out, and he became an ally. And actually, Governor Rick Perry became an ally in his administration. And we had Democratic and Republican legislators who looked at the numbers and said, this is better than anything we've done. So by 2005, there was a projection of needing 17,000 more prison beds in the state of Texas, and that's billions and billions of dollars. So what they did, the legislature did, was we looked at the model that we had presented, and rather than having it for just a few people here and there, 100 people here and 150 there, however it worked, what we did was we changed the whole paradigm of sentencing, and we focused more on rehabilitation and treatment and less on incarceration. And as a result of the implementation of those policies, we've actually closed 3 prisons in the state of Texas, and people don't realize that Texas has closed 3 prisons in the last 5 or 6 years, right? And so it's had a profound impact. But it was there were 2 other smaller courts not run by district judges like myself, and so we actually studied it. We went to training. We came back and we implemented it. And we followed the guidelines and the plans as far as treatment and supervision. We followed the guidelines that were recommended for how a judge should conduct him or herself in these programs. And we came up, obviously, with very good results. And that became the framework for changing the laws in the state of Texas and closing 3 prisons.
So how does a criminal defendant qualify to get into that program?
Well, today, fortunately, instead of 3 programs, there are hundreds of programs throughout the state of Texas. And some concern family violence cases, some concern prostitution cases. We have mental health courts, we have DWI courts, but that divert court and the numbers that it generated is the basis and the foundation for all these other courts. So it depends on what your issue is. It depends on which jurisdiction you're in, whether they even have a program or not. And it depends on whether you meet the qualifications for the program. And if so, let's say everything lines up, then you're placed in the program, and it's kind of up to the jurisdiction as to how long the program should last. But some last anywhere from 1 to 2 years. That's generally what you want to do. Anything beyond that is probably too much. And anything less than that, our studies show you don't get much bang for your buck. And so you have to really, depending on the county you're in and what your problem and situation is, you need to ask the county, the judges in the county or the probation department or the district attorney's office, is there a program available? Now, if you go to the governor's website, Governor Greg Abbott's Criminal Justice Division, they have kind of an outline of what the programs are across the state. Now, that doesn't tell you all the requirements and what have you, but at least give you an idea of whether the jurisdiction that you're in has something that may benefit your client.
So for example, in Dallas County, a guy gets busted for possession, controlled substance, gets a lawyer, court-appointed lawyer. Then how does the lawyer get the client into the system?
Well, that's one of the things we do is constantly educate the lawyers on going to, especially the divert court, and letting them know that they have a person, let's say, who doesn't have a felony criminal record, he may have a misdemeanor, and this is the first time that they've been arrested for a felony drug case. And so that person will be brought in. The case will actually be taken from the grand jury, and then the assessment process begins, which is very important and something that doesn't happen in our ordinary criminal justice system. And as we do complete assessments, we'll do a substance abuse assessment, a psychological assessment to see if there are any mental health issues, and then we screen them for appropriateness for supervision. And if all the things match up, they're given a date to come to court, they're given an opportunity to be in the court, and they basically sign a contract with the court. And the program is 18 months long. The judge who presides over it now is the Honorable Robert Burns, who's doing an outstanding job with that program. He continues to do a very good job. And they can get in the program, and if they need outpatient treatment, that's what's recommended, and they're placed there. If they need inpatient treatment, that's what's recommended, and they're placed there. If they have not very serious mental health issues, we don't deal with the really bad mentally ill, chronically mentally ill, high-level mentally ill. But if it's something mild to moderate, we'll keep them in the program, and we'll see to it that they're on the proper medications, and we supervise the people. And the purpose of the program is to encourage them to succeed. It's not to trip them up. It's not to punish them for punishment's sake, but it's to motivate them to succeed. And a lot of times they've never had faith in themselves. They kind of label themselves as losers, and we tell them, you're not a loser, you're a winner. It's just a matter of turning around the decisions you've made and making better decisions.
So it's a drug rehabilitation program is what it is.
Yes, a judicially supervised drug rehabilitation program.
Is that...
Okay, before you answer that question, I want to make sure we get Calvin and Trey in here as well. And I do want to make our viewers aware, I always say viewers, that's too many decades on TV. Our listeners, that we're not... This isn't. We have to give equal time in some of these things, so I want to make sure that nobody out there is saying, "Hey, wait a minute." But John is a great friend of Steve's, and that's why he's here today, and he's got lots to share with us as we return here on Relationship Roundtable on 570 KLIF.